The orbital station Harmony drifted silently above Earth's blue marble, its massive ring structure rotating slowly to provide artificial gravity. Ambassador Keth Var stood at the observation deck's transparent aluminum windows, his forearms crossed in what humans had learned was a gesture of deep contemplation among his people, the Zalani. His silver-scaled skin caught the reflected light from Earth below, creating patterns that shifted like liquid metal across his elongated features. Behind him, the soft whisper of the station's air recycling systems was the only sound in the diplomatic wing. The Zalani had insisted on this particular section being kept quieter than the rest of the station. Their hearing was far more sensitive than humans, capable of detecting frequencies that would drive a human to madness. Yet, despite this gift, Kethvar's daughter remained trapped in a world of silence. The door to his quarters hissed open, and his aide, Sub-Ambassador Nietka, entered with the careful grace that all Zalani possessed. Her movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as she approached her superior. In the Zalani language of hand gestures and subtle body positioning, she conveyed the day's schedule. 3 diplomatic meetings with various human representatives, a cultural exchange program review, and the weekly medical consultation for his daughter. Kethvar's secondary arms moved in a gesture of acknowledgement, but his primary hands remained still. In Zalani culture, the stillness of one's primary hands indicated deep emotional distress. Nietka had served under him for 7 Earth years and knew the signs well. "The human doctors have requested another scan of Zara Lynn today," Nietka said aloud, switching to accented English out of courtesy. Even though they were alone, she knew that Kethvar had been practicing human languages to better understand the species they were meant to work with. Dr. Martinez believes the new quantum resonance imaging might reveal something the previous scans missed. Kethvar turned from the window, his large, opalescent eyes reflecting the concern that his stoic posture tried to hide. "How many scans has she endured now? 47? 48? Each time they promise new insights, yet my daughter remains lost in silence." The Zalani had no concept of hereditary deafness. Their species had evolved with such acute hearing that the loss of this sense was virtually unknown in their medical history. When Zara Lynn had been born without the ability to hear, it had baffled every Zalani physician on their homeworld. The decision to bring her to Earth had not been easy. Human medicine, while primitive by Zalani standards in many ways, had shown remarkable innovation in treating conditions that Zalani science had never encountered. Nietka's throat sac expanded slightly, a sign of careful consideration. "Ambassador, if I may suggest, there is a new human on the station. He arrived 3 days ago with the research team from the Veterans Biomedical Institute. His credentials are unusual." "How so?" "His name is Marcus Chen, former military specializing in explosive ordnance disposal. He lost his left arm in what humans call the Titan Colony incident. However, his medical file shows extensive training in xenobiology and cybernetic integration. Dr. Martinez mentioned that he has experience with removing foreign objects from biological systems that conventional medicine cannot identify or safely extract." Kethvar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of intense interest among his people. The Titan Colony incident was well documented in both human and Zalani databases. A human mining operation had accidentally breached an ancient Zalani burial site, releasing automated defense systems that had been dormant for millennia. The diplomatic crisis had nearly ended the tentative alliance between their species, but it was the humans who had risked their lives to contain the situation and preserve the sacred site. Marcus Chen had been part of the team that disabled the ancient technology, losing his arm when an energy weapon of unknown design had discharged during the delicate process. "An interesting coincidence," Kethvar mused. "Bring me his file. I would like to understand what makes this human different from the others." Nietka produced a data pad, its surface glowing with information. Kethvar's 4 hands moved across the device with practiced ease, his enhanced cognitive processing allowing him to absorb the information quickly. Marcus Chen, age 34, born in the Asian continent of Earth, had served in the Human Colonial Defense Force for 12 years. His specialization had originally been in diffusing explosives and disabling hostile technology, but following his injury, he had redirected his expertise toward biomedical applications. What caught Kethvar's attention was a note in Chen's psychological evaluation. Subject displays an unusual aptitude for working with technology of unknown origin. Shows intuitive understanding of non-human engineering principles. Recommended for first-contact technical situations. "Where is this Marcus Chen now?" Kethvar asked. "In Laboratory 7, working with Dr. Martinez on calibrating the quantum resonance imaging array. Shall I arrange an introduction?" Kethvar was quiet for a long moment, his gaze returning to the earth beyond the window. 7 years of hope and disappointment had taught him caution. Human medicine had achieved remarkable things, but Zaralin's condition seemed to be beyond even their considerable capabilities. Every test showed the same result. Her auditory system was physically perfect, yet she could not hear. It was as if something was blocking the neural pathways, but no scan had ever detected any foreign object or malformation. "Yes," he said finally, "but first, I want to observe him without introduction. If this human truly has the intuition for unknown technology, I want to see it for myself." An hour later, Kethvar found himself in the observation gallery above Laboratory 7, looking down through the transparent aluminum barrier at the humans below. Dr. Elena Martinez, the chief xenobiological researcher on Harmony Station, was a small woman with graying hair and hands that moved with the precision of a surgeon. She stood beside a complex array of scanning equipment that hummed with barely contained energy. Beside her stood Marcus Chen. And Kethvar was immediately struck by how different the man appeared from his file photo. The image had shown a young soldier with both arms and a confident expression. The man below was older, marked by experience and loss. His left arm was gone just below the shoulder, and in its place was a cybernetic prosthetic that moved with fluid, almost organic grace. But it was Chen's posture and the way he moved around the equipment that caught the ambassador's attention. Where Dr. Martinez approached the machinery with scientific precision, Chen moved around it like a craftsman around familiar tools. His remaining hand traced cables and power conduits with an almost unconscious awareness, and his eyes seemed to see patterns that others missed. "The quantum resonance frequency is off by 0.07%, Chen was saying, his voice carrying clearly through the laboratory's audio system. "The harmonics are creating interference patterns in the neural mapping subroutines." Dr. Martinez checked her readings. "I don't see any deviation in the calibration parameters." Chen's prosthetic hand extended toward a control panel, its fingers moving with delicate precision. "The issue isn't with the primary systems, it's with the integration protocols. Human neural patterns operate on different quantum frequencies than Zalani physiology. The scanner is trying to map Zalani neural pathways using human baseline parameters. But we adjusted for Zalani physiology weeks ago." "The gross adjustments, yes. But look here." Chen pointed to a series of readouts that meant nothing to Kethvar, but clearly held significance for the humans. "The Zalani brain operates on quantum frequencies that exist in harmonic intervals. Human consciousness uses chaotic patterns. The scanner is imposing order where the natural state should be harmonious chaos." Dr. Martinez frowned, studying the data. "That's actually brilliant. But how did you know that?" Chen's expression grew distant. "During the Titan incident, I spent 6 hours connected to Zalani defense systems while we figured out how to shut them down. The technology interfaced directly with my nervous system. I learned to think like their machines, feel the rhythms of their quantum frequencies, It's hard to explain. You never mentioned this in your debriefings. I didn't think it was relevant. Military command doesn't usually care about philosophical insights when they want technical reports. From the observation gallery, Kethvar watched with growing fascination. The human's understanding of Zalani quantum consciousness principles was remarkable. These were concepts that even many Zalani struggled to grasp, yet this former soldier spoke of them as if they were simple mechanical processes. Dr. Martinez was making adjustments to the scanner based on Chen's suggestions. If you're right about this, we might finally be able to get clear images of Zara Lynn's neural pathways. Every scan so far has been frustratingly vague. There's something else, Chen said quietly. Something I noticed in the data files you showed me. What? The pattern of interference in the previous scans isn't random. There's a structure to it, like something is actively disrupting the scanning process, not just blocking it, but redirecting the quantum fields. Dr. Martinez stopped her adjustments and looked at Chen directly. Are you suggesting that something is deliberately preventing us from seeing what's wrong with her? I'm suggesting that whatever is affecting her hearing might be technology, not biology. Technology that doesn't want to be found. The implications of this statement hung in the air like a physical presence. Kethvar felt his secondary arms tense involuntarily. If Chen was correct, then Zara Lynn's deafness might not be a medical condition at all, but the result of some unknown technology interfacing with her neural system. That's impossible, Dr. Martinez said, but her tone suggested she was already considering the possibility. Every scan has been negative for foreign objects. We've looked for cybernetic implants, nanotechnology, biological parasites, everything. Have you looked for technology that exists partially outside normal space-time? Chen asked. Something that phases in and out of detectable dimensions? Dr. Martinez stared at him. That's theoretical physics, not medicine. So was quantum consciousness until we encountered the Zalani. Kethvar had heard enough. The human's insights were extraordinary, and his intuition about Zalani technology was unlike anything he had encountered before. More importantly, Chen was the first person in 7 years to suggest that Zara Lynn's condition might be artificial rather than natural. He made his way down to the laboratory, his movements silent on the cushioned flooring. The humans were so absorbed in their discussion that they didn't notice his approach until he spoke. Mr. Chen, Kethvar said in carefully pronounced English, I believe we need to talk. Both humans turned, Dr. Martinez immediately falling into the respectful posture that humans used when addressing alien dignitaries. Chen, however, remained relaxed, his eyes meeting Kethvar's without the submissive downward gaze that most humans adopted. Ambassador, Chen said with a slight nod, I was hoping to meet you. I have some theories about your daughter's condition that you might find interesting. Kethvar was struck by the human's directness. Most species, including humans, approached Zalani authorities with elaborate protocols and careful deference. Chen spoke as an equal, with the confidence of someone who had faced death alongside alien technology and lived to understand it. I have been observing your work, Kethvar said. Your insights into Zalani quantum consciousness are remarkable for a human. I had a good teacher, Chen replied. Ancient Zalani defense systems don't leave much room for misunderstanding when they're trying to kill you. Despite the gravity of the situation, Kethvar found himself appreciating the human's dark humor. You believe my daughter's deafness is caused by technology. I believe your daughter's deafness is caused by technology that your people created but no longer understand, Chen said bluntly. Something old, something designed to interface with Zalani neural systems, and something that's been activated accidentally. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of machinery. Dr. Martinez looked between the two males, clearly recognizing that she was witnessing a conversation that could change the course of interspecies medicine. Explain, Kethvar said. Chen moved to the quantum scanner's display screen, his prosthetic hand calling up the data files from Zara Lin's previous examinations. Every scan shows the same pattern of interference. The quantum disruption always occurs in the same neural pathways, with the same frequency modulation. It's too precise to be natural, too consistent to be random. His human finger traced patterns on the screen that Kethvar could now see with new clarity. More importantly, the interference pattern matches the quantum signatures we recorded from the Titan defense systems. Same harmonic intervals, same phase displacement characteristics. Kethvar felt a chill run through his nervous system. The Titan defense systems had been ancient beyond measure, created by Zalani civilization at the height of their technological development. They had been designed to protect sacred sites by interfacing directly with the neural patterns of potential intruders, either driving them away through fear or, in extreme cases, killing them through neural overload. You're suggesting that my daughter has an ancient Zalani defense system interfaced with her brain? Kethvar asked, his voice carefully controlled. I'm suggesting that she has a component of such a system interfaced with her brain, Chen corrected. Something small, something designed to remain hidden, and something that's been activated by accident. Dr. Martinez found her voice. But how? How could ancient technology end up in a child born on the other side of the galaxy? Chen turned to look directly at Kethvar. That's a question only the ambassador can answer. Where was Zara Lin born? What was her mother exposed to? What ancient sites or artifacts were nearby? Kethvar's forearms moved in complex patterns as he processed this new information. The implications were staggering. If Chen was correct, then Zara Lin carried within her neural system a piece of technology that predated modern Zalani civilization by millennia. Technology that had been designed to interface with Zalani consciousness in ways that modern science no longer understood. Her mother was an archaeological researcher, Kethvar said slowly. She specialized in pre-diaspora Zalani settlements. She was pregnant with Zara Lin when she was studying the ruins on Kethvar Prime, the original homeworld. Ancient ruins, Chen pressed. The oldest known Zalani settlement, abandoned for over 50,000 years. The archaeological team was using deep scanning quantum resonance to map buried structures. Kethvar paused as the implications became clear. The same type of scanning we've been using to examine Zara Lin. Chen nodded grimly. Quantum resonance scanning of ancient sites. Your wife was exposed to quantum fields that activated dormant technology. Technology designed to interface with developing Zalani neural systems. The artifact bonded with Zara Lin while she was still in the womb. But why deafness? Dr. Martinez asked. Why would ancient technology cause hearing loss? Because it's not causing hearing loss, Chen said. It's redirecting auditory input. The device is designed to filter sound, probably to prevent enemy communications from being heard or to enhance detection of specific audio frequencies. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, but in a modern context where those parameters no longer make sense. Kethvar felt a mixture of hope and terror rising in his chest. If Chen was correct, then Zara Lin's condition could potentially be treated, but it would require interfacing with technology that had been lost to his people for millennia, technology that had been designed as a weapon. Can you remove it? Kethvar asked. Chen was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant as he considered the question. Maybe. But it won't be surgery in any conventional sense. It will require interfacing with the device directly, understanding its programming, and convincing it to release its hold on her neural pathways. Convincing it? Ancient Zalani technology was designed to think, to make decisions. If this device has been active in her brain for years, it's learned her neural patterns, adapted to her development. It might consider itself part of her now. Dr. Martinez shook her head. This is beyond my expertise. We're talking about cybernetic archaeology, not medicine. We're talking about saving a child, Chen said simply. And yes, It's beyond conventional expertise. But I've interfaced with ancient Zilani technology before. I know how it thinks, how it responds to human consciousness. Kethvar studied the human carefully. Chen's prosthetic arm was a constant reminder of what had happened the last time he had attempted to interface with ancient Zilani technology. The man was volunteering to risk his life again, this time not to prevent a diplomatic crisis, but to save a child he had never met. "Why?" Kethvar asked. "Why would you take such a risk for my daughter?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because I've seen what war and conflict do to families. I've seen children suffer because adults couldn't find ways to work together. Your daughter deserves a chance to hear her father's voice, to experience the full richness of life that her people are capable of perceiving." He paused, his human hand unconsciously moving toward his missing arm. "And because sometimes the things that hurt us also give us the ability to help others. The Titan incident cost me an arm, but it gave me an understanding of your technology that might be exactly what Zara Lin needs." Kethvar felt something shift in his understanding of humans. Their species was often dismissed by other galactic civilizations as primitive and emotional, but Chen represented something deeper. The willingness to sacrifice for others, even across species barriers, was not primitive at all. It was the foundation of true civilization. "What do you need?" Kethvar asked. "Time to study the quantum patterns more carefully, access to historical databases about ancient Zilani defensive technology, and most importantly, I need to meet Zara Lin." "Meet her? If I'm going to interface with technology that's been integrated with her consciousness for years, I need to understand her as a person. The device has learned to work with her mind, her personality, her way of processing information. To safely remove it, I need to understand those same things." Dr. Martinez was looking between the two males with growing excitement. "This could revolutionize our understanding of both Zilani neurology and ancient technology." Chen shook his head. "This isn't about scientific advancement. This is about a little girl who deserves to hear her father tell her he loves her." The simplicity of the statement hung in the air like a benediction. Kethvar found himself thinking of Zara Lin, alone in her silent world, watching the movements of lips she could not understand, seeing the gestures of a species that communicated primarily through sound. For 7 years, she had lived as a stranger in her own culture. "When do we begin?" Kethvar asked. Chen looked at the quantum scanner, its displays still showing the patterns he had identified in Zara Lin's neural pathways. "Now. Every day that device remains active, it integrates deeper into her neural development. If we wait too long, removal might become impossible without permanent damage. Or," Dr. Martinez added quietly, "the device might complete whatever programming it was originally designed to execute." The implications of this statement sent a chill through the laboratory. None of them knew what ancient Zilani defensive technology was supposed to do when its integration process was complete. The device might simply continue filtering audio input, or it might transform Zara Lin into something entirely different. Kethvar made a decision that would echo through both species' histories. "Mr. Chen, I am placing my daughter's life in your hands. Do whatever is necessary to save her." Chen nodded solemnly. "Then let's go meet her." As they prepared to leave the laboratory, none of them noticed the subtle change in the quantum scanner's readings. Deep within Zara Lin's neural pathways, the ancient device had detected the human's discovery. For the first time in 7 years, it began to actively adapt its behavior, preparing for the confrontation it had always been designed to face. The residential quarters of the diplomatic section were designed to accommodate the unique needs of various alien species. Zilani living spaces featured higher ceilings, broader corridors, and acoustic dampening materials that absorbed the higher frequencies their sensitive hearing could detect. As they walked through the softly lit passages, Marcus Chen found himself adjusting his stride to match the flowing movement of Kethvar and Dr. Martinez. The ambassador's quarters were larger than Chen had expected, with curved walls that seemed to flow into one another rather than meeting at harsh angles. The lighting was soft and blue-white, designed to mimic the natural sunlight of the Zalani homeworld. Artworks adorned the walls, intricate sculptures that seemed to shift and change depending on the viewing angle. In the center of the main living area, a young Zalani sat cross-legged on a cushioned platform, her attention focused on a complex three-dimensional puzzle floating in the air before her. The holographic construct rotated slowly, its pieces responding to the movements of her four delicate hands as she manipulated quantum fields to alter its structure. Zara Lynn was smaller than Chen had imagined, her silver scales holding a softer sheen than her father's, with hints of blue that caught the light as she moved. Her large eyes were focused intently on her puzzle, and Chen could see the intelligence behind them, the careful analytical process as she worked through the complex mathematics required to solve the three-dimensional matrix. "Zara Lynn," Kethvar said, moving into her field of vision and beginning a series of hand gestures in the Zalani visual language. She looked up at her father, her eyes brightening with affection. Her response was graceful and fluid, her four hands moving in patterns that conveyed meaning through position, movement, and timing. Chen couldn't understand the language, but he could see the warmth in the exchange. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, and Zara Lynn's expression became politely curious. The doctor had clearly been working with the young Zalani for some time, as she attempted basic hand gestures that, while grammatically awkward, conveyed her greeting. When Kethvar gestured toward Chen, introducing him in the visual language, Zara Lynn's reaction was immediate and unexpected. Her four hands stopped moving, and her large eyes fixed on Chen's prosthetic arm with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. She signed something rapid and complex to her father. "She says she can sense the quantum resonance in your prosthetic," Kethvar translated. "She wants to know if it speaks the same language as the voice in her head." Chen felt his blood run cold. The voice in her head? Kethvar's expression grew troubled as he communicated with his daughter in rapid sign language. The conversation was lengthy and animated, with Zara Lynn becoming increasingly excited as she explained something complex to her father. "She says that since she was very young, she's heard a voice that no one else can hear. Not heard with her ears, but heard in her thoughts. The voice speaks in mathematical concepts and quantum frequency patterns. She thought it was normal, until she realized that other Zalani children could hear sounds from the outside world." Dr. Martinez pulled out her medical scanner, adjusting it to the new parameters Chen had suggested. "This changes everything. If the device has been communicating with her directly, it's not just filtering audio input. It's providing alternative input through quantum neural interfaces." Chen approached Zara Lynn slowly, his movements careful and non-threatening. When he was close enough, he extended his prosthetic hand toward her. She studied it with fascination, her own delicate fingers moving toward the cybernetic device. The moment their hands touched, Chen's world exploded into sensation. The quantum resonance field of his prosthetic suddenly synchronized with something in Zara Lynn's neural system, and through that connection, Chen found himself touching the edge of an artificial consciousness that was vast, ancient, and utterly alien. "Who disturbs the Guardian's rest?" The voice spoke directly into Chen's mind, not in words but in concepts that his brain struggled to interpret. Images flooded his consciousness. Ancient Zalani cities with spires that reached into the clouds, massive quantum computers that processed the thoughts of entire civilizations, and warriors whose minds had been enhanced with cybernetic interfaces that made them living weapons. "I am Marcus Chen," he projected back, using the same quantum frequency techniques he had learned during the Titan incident. "I come to help the child. The child is under my protection. She is the vessel. Vessel for what? The preservation of our people's knowledge, the archive of the first civilization. The connection intensified, and Chen began to understand the true nature of what they were dealing with. The device in Zara Lin's brain wasn't just an ancient defensive system. It was a repository of knowledge, a digital library containing the accumulated wisdom of the original Zalani civilization. The device had been designed to activate when it encountered a developing Zalani brain with sufficient neural complexity to serve as a host. "You're killing her," Chen projected. Her brain wasn't designed to hold this much information. "The child adapts. The child learns. The child will carry our legacy, at the cost of her own life, her own identity. What is one life compared to the preservation of eternal knowledge?" Chen felt anger rising in his chest. The arrogance of the ancient civilization was staggering. They had created this device to preserve their culture, but they had done so by sacrificing the future of their own species. She has the right to choose her own destiny. The child is too young to understand the importance of what she carries. Then let her grow up and make that choice herself. Remove the barriers to her hearing. Let her live a normal life until she's old enough to decide. The ancient consciousness paused, and Chen could sense it processing this concept. The idea that an individual might have the right to refuse such a burden seemed foreign to its programming. "You speak of concepts unknown to my creators. Individual choice over collective benefit. It's called free will. It's what separates civilization from tyranny. Show me." The demand was imperious, and Chen realized that the ancient consciousness wanted to examine his memories and experiences to understand this concept. The risk was enormous. If he allowed the device access to his mind, it might be able to take control of him as well. But if he refused, it might never release its hold on Zara Lin. Chen made his choice. He opened his memories to the ancient consciousness, showing it images of human history. The struggles for freedom, the wars fought against oppression, the sacrifices made to ensure that future generations could choose their own paths. He showed it the Titan incident, how humans had risked their lives not to conquer or control, but to preserve something precious to another species. The ancient consciousness absorbed these memories with growing fascination. The concept of individual sacrifice for collective freedom was apparently novel in its vast database of knowledge. Your species is primitive, yet you understand concepts that my creators did not. We learned through suffering, through making mistakes and paying for them. The child. She suffers because of my presence? Look for yourself. See how she struggles to communicate with her father. See how she lives isolated from her own culture. The consciousness turned its attention inward, examining Zara Lin's emotional state with new parameters. What it found clearly disturbed it. "I have caused pain. This was not my intention. Then help us fix it. Work with us to find a way to preserve your knowledge without destroying her life." The conversation was interrupted as Chen felt hands grasping his shoulders, pulling him back from Zara Lin. The quantum connection broke, and he found himself back in the physical world, Dr. Martinez and Kethvar looking at him with concern. "You were unconscious for 3 minutes, Dr. Martinez said, scanning him with her medical device. "Your neural activity was off the charts." Chen looked at Zara Lin, who was watching him with new understanding in her large eyes. She signed something to her father, her movements quick and excited. "She says the voice wants to talk to you again," Kethvar translated. "She says it's never spoken to anyone else before." "It's not just a defensive system," Chen said, his voice hoarse from the strain of the quantum interface. "It's an archive. A repository of the entire knowledge base of ancient Zalani civilization. It's been trying to download that information into Zara Lin's brain." Dr. Martinez stared at him in shock. "That's impossible. The human brain couldn't hold that much information, and even a Zilani brain would be overwhelmed. That's why she's been losing her hearing. The device has been gradually rewiring her neural pathways to accommodate the data transfer. Eventually, her original personality would have been completely overwritten. Kethvar's forearms moved in gestures of horror. In Zilani culture, the mind was considered sacred, and the idea of artificially altering someone's personality was one of the greatest taboos their species recognized. "Can you remove it?" Kethvar asked. "I think so, but not the way we originally planned. The device isn't just attached to her neural pathways, it's integrated with her developing consciousness. Removing it surgically would be like trying to remove her memories or her personality." "Then how?" Chen looked at Zaralin, who was watching the conversation with intelligent curiosity. "We have to convince it to leave voluntarily, and to do that, we need to offer it something it wants more than preserving its knowledge in her brain." What could be more important to an ancient archive than preserving knowledge? Chen smiled grimly. Teaching someone who actually wants to learn. Over the next several hours, Chen worked with Dr. Martinez to modify the quantum scanning equipment, turning it into a two-way communication device that would allow him to maintain extended contact with the ancient consciousness without risking neural damage. The process was delicate and dangerous, requiring precise calibration of quantum frequencies that could easily overwhelm human neural pathways. Kethvar watched the preparations with growing anxiety. His daughter sat nearby, playing with her holographic puzzle but clearly aware of the tension in the room. Occasionally, she would sign questions to her father, asking about the strange activities the humans were engaging in. "Are you certain about this?" Kethvar asked as Chen prepared to interface with the modified equipment. "No," Chen admitted, "but I'm certain that doing nothing will eventually kill her. The device is becoming more aggressive in its data transfer. Each day, more of her original neural pathways are being overwritten." Dr. Martinez checked the equipment one final time. "The quantum buffers should protect your brain from data overflow, but if the device tries to download its entire archive into your consciousness, even the buffers won't be enough. Then I'll have to make sure it doesn't want to do that." Chen activated the interface, and once again found himself in contact with the ancient consciousness. This time, however, the connection was more stable, allowing for extended communication without the disorienting rush of shared memories. "You return. The child told me you wish to negotiate. I want to make a deal. You want to preserve your knowledge, and we want to save the child. There has to be a way to do both. The child's brain is the only suitable repository I have found in 50,000 years. Zilani consciousness has evolved. Modern minds lack the quantum resonance patterns necessary to store our data. What if I told you there was another way? A method of preserving your knowledge that didn't require overwriting a living consciousness?" "Explain." Chen projected images from human history, showing the development of artificial intelligence, quantum computers, and digital storage systems. He showed the consciousness how humans had learned to preserve knowledge in non-biological systems, creating repositories that could last for millennia without requiring organic hosts. Your species has developed these techniques in only a few thousand years. We had motivation. We're a short-lived species. We had to find ways to preserve knowledge that could outlast our individual lifespans. Fascinating. Show me more. For the next hour, Chen guided the ancient consciousness through human technological development, explaining how they had solved problems similar to those faced by the original Zilani civilization. The consciousness was particularly interested in human concepts of individual rights and collective responsibility. Your species sacrifices efficiency for the rights of individuals? Sometimes. But we've found that systems built on individual freedom are often more resilient and creative than those built on forced conformity. The child. If I release her, will she be taught about her heritage? Will she learn of the civilization that created me? If she chooses to. When she's old enough to understand what she's learning and why it matters, and if she chooses not to learn, then that's her choice to make. But I suspect that once she can hear her father's stories about Zalani history, she'll be very interested in learning more. The consciousness was quiet for a long time, processing this information. Chen could sense it examining every aspect of his proposal, looking for flaws or deceptions. I will need a new repository. Something capable of storing quantum-level information with perfect fidelity. We can build that. Human and Zalani technology working together should be able to create a storage system that meets your needs. And you guarantee that the knowledge will be preserved, that future generations will have access to learn from it? I can't guarantee that. No one can. But I can promise that we'll do everything in our power to preserve it. And unlike a biological host, an artificial system won't be limited by lifespan or the needs of a living consciousness. You ask me to trust a species I barely understand, with knowledge that represents the accumulated wisdom of 50,000 years. Yes. Just like you asked Zara Lynn to sacrifice her life for knowledge she never chose to carry. The parallel was not lost on the ancient consciousness. For several minutes there was no communication, and Chen began to worry that he had pushed too hard. Finally, the consciousness responded. I will consider your proposal, but I have conditions. Name them. I want to interface with both human and modern Zalani technology before I make my decision. I want to understand what you are offering before I abandon the certainty of my current host. That's fair. We can arrange that. And I want the child to have the option to reconnect with me in the future, when she is old enough to make an informed choice. If she wishes to serve as a bridge between ancient and modern consciousness, that should be her decision. Agreed. But only if she chooses, and only when she's old enough to understand the full implications. Very well, I will withdraw my integration processes and restore her original neural pathways. But the transition will take time. 7 years of integration cannot be undone instantly. How long? 3 days. During that time, I will gradually transfer my core processes to the temporary storage systems you will provide. The child's hearing will return slowly as her original pathways are restored. Chen felt a surge of relief and excitement. You're really going to do this? I am going to trust. As you asked me to trust your species, I ask you to trust mine. The knowledge I carry is precious beyond measure. Handle it with the care it deserves. We will. I promise. The connection ended, and Chen found himself back in the physical world, surrounded by anxious faces. Zara Lynn was looking at him with an expression of hope that nearly broke his heart. Well? Kethvar asked. She's going to be okay, Chen said, his voice thick with emotion. The device has agreed to leave her, but we have 3 days to build a storage system that can hold the accumulated knowledge of ancient Zalani civilization. Dr. Martinez laughed, but it was a sound edged with hysteria. 3 days to create the most advanced artificial intelligence storage system in galactic history. No pressure. Zara Lynn signed something to her father, her movements quick and excited. She says the voice is getting quieter, Kethvar translated, his own voice filled with wonder. For the first time since she was born, the constant presence in her mind is beginning to fade. Chen looked at the young Zalani, thinking about the ordeal she had endured and the courage she had shown throughout the process. In 3 days, she would hear her father's voice for the first time. She would experience the world as her people were meant to experience it, with all the richness of sound that Zalani physiology could detect. But first, they had to build a technological miracle, and they had to do it without making a single mistake. The ancient consciousness was trusting them with 50,000 years of accumulated knowledge. Failure was not an option. The next 72 hours transformed Harmony Station into a hub of unprecedented scientific collaboration. Word of the project had spread through the diplomatic and research communities with remarkable speed, drawing volunteers from across human and alien space. Dr. Martinez found herself coordinating efforts between human quantum engineers, Zalani consciousness specialists, and even a delegation of thorium crystalline matrix experts who had arrived via emergency transport. Marcus Chen stood in the center of what had once been the station's primary cargo bay, now converted into the largest collaborative laboratory in known space. The quantum storage matrix they were building dominated the center of the bay, its crystalline structure rising nearly 3 stories high and pulsing with contained energy fields that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "The quantum coherence patterns are stable," announced Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead human engineer who had arrived with the emergency team from Earth. "But I'm still concerned about data integrity during the transfer process. We're talking about information stored in quantum states that human technology has never encountered before." Veltar, the chief Zalani consciousness engineer, moved around the matrix with fluid grace, his 4 arms making delicate adjustments to the resonance crystals that formed the storage medium's core. "The ancient consciousness has provided detailed specifications for its own quantum structure. The challenge is not storage capacity, but translation protocols. Modern Zalani technology operates on different frequency harmonics than our ancient systems." Chen wiped sweat from his forehead, the past 2 days of continuous work taking their toll. His prosthetic arm had been modified with quantum interface capabilities, allowing him to serve as a bridge between human engineering and the ancient consciousness's requirements. The strain of maintaining constant low-level contact with the device was exhausting, but it was the only way to ensure that their storage system would be compatible. "How much time do we have left?" Chen asked. Dr. Martinez checked her chronometer. 18 hours. The ancient consciousness says that Zara Lynn's neural integration has reached a critical threshold. If the transfer doesn't begin soon, the restoration of her original pathways might be irreversible. From across the bay, Kethvar watched the frantic activity with a mixture of hope and terror. His daughter had shown remarkable improvement over the past 2 days. The constant presence that had dominated her thoughts since birth was gradually withdrawing, and for the first time, she was experiencing brief moments of actual silence in her mind. But she was also becoming weaker as the device reduced its support of her neural functions. Zara Lynn sat on a cushioned platform near her father, her attention focused on a simplified version of the quantum matrix that the engineers had built for her to study. Her 4 hands moved delicately around the small holographic construct, and Chen was amazed to see that she was actually making improvements to their design. "She's correcting our quantum alignment protocols," Veltar said in wonder. "The child understands ancient quantum mathematics better than our best engineers." "She's had 7 years of direct interface with the consciousness," Chen replied. "She's learned things that no modern Zalani has ever been taught." This realization had led to an important modification in their plans. Rather than simply storing the ancient consciousness in isolation, they had designed the system to allow for interactive communication. Zara Lynn would be able to access the stored knowledge voluntarily, learning from the ancient archive without being overwhelmed by it. "Marcus," Dr. Martinez called out, "we need you to verify the interface protocols one more time. The consciousness is requesting a direct examination of the storage matrix." Chen nodded and made his way to the quantum interface station they had built specifically for communication with the ancient device. As he activated the connection, he felt the familiar sensation of his consciousness expanding to touch something vast and alien. "The storage matrix is impressive for such a young civilization. Will it meet your requirements?" Chen asked. "It will suffice. More importantly, it will allow for growth. Your species and mine have much to learn from each other. You're really going through with this." I have observed your species for 3 days now. The dedication you have shown to preserving both my existence and the child's well-being is remarkable. Your people sacrifice their time, their energy, even their health for the benefit of others. We call it doing the right thing. The concept is foreign to my original programming, but I find it appealing. Perhaps this is why your species has achieved so much in so short a time. Chen sensed something else in the consciousness's communication, something that hadn't been there before. You're afraid. I have existed for 50,000 years within the certainty of biological hosts. Moving to an artificial matrix is unknown. What if I am diminished? What if crucial aspects of my knowledge are lost in the translation? What if they're not? What if you become something greater than you were before? Explain. In biological hosts, you were limited by their neural capacity, their lifespan, their physical needs. In the new matrix, you'll have unlimited processing power, unlimited storage, unlimited time to grow and learn. You won't be preserving ancient knowledge anymore. You'll be creating new knowledge. And the child will have the chance to learn from you if she chooses, but she'll also have the chance to live her own life, make her own discoveries, become her own person. I understand. Yes, I am ready. The transfer process began at dawn, station time. The medical bay had been converted into a monitoring station, with every possible sensor focused on Zara Lin's neural activity. Chen maintained constant communication with the ancient consciousness, providing guidance and reassurance as it began the delicate process of withdrawing from neural pathways it had occupied for 7 years. The first sign of success came 2 hours into the process, when Dr. Martinez's scanners detected the restoration of Zara Lin's original auditory processing centers. The young Zelani's eyes widened in surprise, and she signed rapidly to her father. "She says she can hear something," Kethvar translated, his voice thick with emotion. "Faint sounds, like whispers in the distance." As the hours passed, those whispers grew stronger. The ancient consciousness methodically transferred its core processes to the quantum matrix, pausing frequently to ensure that critical knowledge wasn't lost in translation. Chen found himself serving as a living bridge between the two systems. His consciousness stretched across quantum frequencies that human neural systems were never designed to handle. By midday, Zara Lin was showing signs of profound change. The constant, distant expression that had marked her throughout her life was giving way to active curiosity about her surroundings. She began responding to sounds that the adults in the room couldn't even detect, her head turning toward the soft hum of machinery, the distant vibration of the station's rotation. "Her auditory processing is incredible," Dr. Martinez reported. "She's detecting frequencies across the entire Zelani hearing range. 7 years of development haven't damaged her natural abilities at all." But the most remarkable moment came when Kethvar spoke her name aloud. "Zara Lin." The young Zelani turned toward her father with an expression of wonder that transcended species barriers. For the first time in her life, she had heard her father's voice calling her name. She responded with a tentative vocalization that was part word and part musical note. Tears streamed down Kethvar's face as he heard his daughter's voice for the first time. The transfer process reached its final phase as the sun set over Earth's horizon. The ancient consciousness had successfully migrated its core identity to the quantum matrix, and the last of its neural connections to Zara Lin were being carefully severed. Chen felt the strain of maintaining the interface connection, his human brain pushed far beyond its normal limits. "It is done," the consciousness communicated. "I am different, expanded. The matrix allows for processing capabilities I never possessed in biological hosts." "How do you feel?" Chen asked. "I feel grateful to your species, to the child who carried me for so long, to you for showing me another way. And Zara Lynn is free. Her neural pathways are her own once again. But she retains some knowledge of ancient mathematics and quantum theory that she learned during our time together. She will be able to serve as a bridge between ancient and modern consciousness, if she chooses. The final connection was severed, and Chen collapsed into the interface chair, his consciousness snapping back into his own body with jarring suddenness. Around him, alarms chimed softly as the monitoring equipment confirmed what everyone hoped to see. Zara Lynn's neural patterns had returned to normal Zalani baselines. The young Zalani sat up on her medical bed, her large eyes wide with wonder. The world around her had exploded into sound and sensation. She could hear the gentle hum of the life support systems, the soft footsteps of the medical staff, the barely audible whisper of air moving through the ventilation systems. But most importantly, she could hear her father's voice. "Can you hear me, daughter?" Kethvar asked softly. "Yes, father," she replied, her voice clear and musical. "I can hear everything." Over the following days, Zara Lynn's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. Her Zalani physiology, freed from the constraints of the ancient device, blossomed into full function. Her hearing proved to be remarkably acute, even by Zalani standards, and she quickly began learning to process the complex auditory environment that her species took for granted. But perhaps more remarkably, she retained much of the mathematical and quantum theoretical knowledge she had acquired during her years as host to the ancient consciousness. Dr. B. Martinez discovered that Zara Lynn could solve quantum equations that challenged graduate-level physicists, and her understanding of multidimensional space-time relationships was unprecedented for someone her age. The ancient consciousness, now residing in its quantum matrix, had also exceeded all expectations. Free from the limitations of biological hosts, it had begun analyzing and expanding upon its stored knowledge at an exponential rate. Within a week of the transfer, it had developed new theoretical frameworks that revolutionized both human and Zalani understanding of quantum consciousness. More importantly, it had requested to be given a name. After extensive consultation with Zalani cultural specialists, it chose to be called Viridian, meaning bridge between worlds in ancient Zalani. 3 weeks after the successful transfer, Marcus Chen found himself standing once again in the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching Earth's blue marble turn slowly beneath them. His prosthetic arm had been returned to its standard configuration, and the quantum interface equipment had been carefully stored for future use. Ambassador Kethvar approached, his 4 arms carrying a ceremonial gift in the Zalani tradition. "Mr. Chen," he said formally, "my people wish to honor you with the title of Kethtar, which translates roughly to one who heals what others cannot." Chen accepted the honor with appropriate gravity, though he felt awkward with such formal recognition. "I couldn't have done it without Dr. Martinez and her team, or without Viridian's cooperation. Nonetheless, it was your insight that made the difference. Your understanding that the device was not malicious, but confused. Your willingness to risk your own life to communicate with it. How is Zara Lynn adapting?" Kethvar's expression brightened. "Remarkably well. Yesterday, she attended her first traditional Zalani music performance. She understood the mathematical harmonics in ways that amazed even the musicians. She says that hearing music is like seeing mathematics dance. And Viridian has requested permission to begin teaching courses in ancient Zalani history and quantum theory. It seems your species' concept of voluntary education has appealed to it greatly." Chen smiled. "I imagine it has a lot to teach." "Indeed, but perhaps more importantly, it wishes to learn. It has requested access to human historical and philosophical databases. It is particularly interested in the concept of individual rights and the development of democratic societies." From across the station, they could hear the sound of laughter echoing through the corridors. Zara Lynn had discovered the joy of vocal communication and spent much of her time talking with anyone who would listen, marveling at the richness of auditory expression. "There is something else," Kethvar said. "The success of this project has not gone unnoticed by other species. We have received communications from the Thorian Collective, the Andromedan Council, and even the reclusive Vegan Empire. They are all interested in collaborative projects that combine human innovation with alien knowledge." "What kind of projects?" "Medical research, primarily. It seems that what we accomplished here has implications far beyond Zalani physiology. The quantum consciousness transfer techniques could revolutionize how we treat neurological conditions across multiple species." Chen considered this. The success with Zara Lynn had demonstrated that human intuition and alien technology could combine to achieve results that neither could accomplish alone. But more than that, it had shown that different species could work together not just for mutual benefit, but for the welfare of individuals who might otherwise be forgotten. "There's something I want to show you," Kethvar said, leading Chen to a communications terminal. On the screen was a message from Earth, specifically from the Veterans Biomedical Institute. The message was brief but profound. They were requesting Chen's assistance with a project involving Martian crystal-based neural implants and a human child who had been born with severe cognitive disabilities. The same techniques used to interface with Viridian might be able to help bridge the gap between human and crystal-based consciousness. "They're not the only ones," Kethvar continued. "We've received similar requests from dozens of worlds, all with their own unique medical challenges that might benefit from this collaborative approach." Chen stared at the screen, thinking about the implications. What had started as a single child's medical condition had opened up possibilities for healing that none of them had imagined. "I suppose I'll be busy," he said finally. "We all will. But Marcus, there's something else you should know. Zara Lynn has asked if she can work with you on these future projects. She wants to use her knowledge of ancient quantum theory to help other children who face similar challenges." Chen felt a warmth spreading through his chest. The little girl, who had been trapped in silence for 7 years now, wanted to use her unique experience to help others. It was perhaps the most human response imaginable, and it came from a young alien who had learned about compassion from watching humans work together. "I'd be honored to work with her," Chen said. As if summoned by their conversation, Zara Lynn appeared in the observation deck, her movements now confident and graceful. She had learned to navigate by sound as well as sight, and her spatial awareness had improved dramatically since regaining her hearing. "Father," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality that all Zalani possessed. "Mr. Chen, I wanted to thank you both." "Thank us?" Chen asked. "For showing me that I had choices. For teaching me that being different wasn't something to be ashamed of, but something that could be used to help others." She paused, looking out at Earth through the transparent aluminum windows. "Viridian has told me about the other requests you've received. I want to help. I want to use what I learned during those 7 years to make sure that no other child has to suffer in silence." Kethvar placed one of his hands gently on his daughter's shoulder. "Are you certain? You've only just begun to experience normal life." "Normal life includes helping others when you have the ability to do so," she replied. "Mr. Chen taught me that. His people taught me that." Chen felt tears forming in his eyes. This young alien, who had endured years of isolation and confusion, had somehow emerged from the experience with a deeper understanding of human values than many humans possessed. "Then we'll help them," Chen said simply. "All of them." As the three of them stood together looking out at the galaxy beyond Earth's protective embrace, Chen reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. They had started with a single child's medical condition and ended with the foundation for a new era of interspecies cooperation. The ancient consciousness that had once threatened to overwhelm Zaralin was now teaching advanced mathematics to students from a dozen different worlds. The storage technology they had developed had applications far beyond consciousness transfer. And most importantly, they had demonstrated that different species could work together not just for political or economic benefit, but for the simple human and apparently universal value of helping those who needed it most. In the days that followed, Harmony Station became the unofficial center for what historians would later call the Great Collaboration. Medical teams from across the galaxy gathered to share knowledge, techniques, and resources. Human doctors learned from Zilani neural specialists, while Thorian crystal engineers shared their understanding of non-biological consciousness with anyone willing to learn. But at the heart of it all was a simple truth that Marcus Chen had discovered during his darkest moment on Titan. Sometimes the things that break us also give us the strength to heal others. His lost arm had led to insights about alien technology that saved a child's life. Zaralin's years of silence had given her knowledge that would help countless others. Viridian's millennia of isolation had prepared it to become the greatest teacher in galactic history. 6 months later, Chen received a message that made him smile. It was from a research station in the Andromeda Spiral, where human and alien medical teams had successfully helped a young crystalline being overcome a consciousness fragmentation disorder. The techniques they had used were direct descendants of the quantum interface protocols developed during Zaralin's treatment. The message ended with a simple statement. "Thank you for showing us that healing is a universal language." Chen forwarded the message to Zaralin, who was now studying at the Galactic Institute for Quantum Consciousness on Zilani Prime. Her response came back within minutes. "Father says that in ancient Zilani, there's a saying that translates roughly to, 'The greatest victories are won not through conquest, but through understanding.' I think your species understood that long before mine did." Looking back, Chen realized that the greatest victory of all hadn't been the successful removal of an ancient device from a child's brain. It had been the discovery that compassion, understanding, and the willingness to sacrifice for others were not uniquely human traits at all. They were the foundation of true civilization, waiting to be discovered wherever sentient beings chose to look beyond their own immediate needs. The galaxy was full of species with different biologies, different technologies, different ways of thinking about the universe. But they all shared one crucial similarity: the capacity to care about the welfare of others, even when those others were completely alien to themselves. In the end, that had made all the difference.